Superfood Evolution presents About Olives. Difference between green versus black varieties. Are they actually high in Oleuropein? Olives are another one of those ancient fruits, second only to grapes, that were valued for their pressed juices as well as a food source. Because of its naturally bitter taste and crunchy texture, the raw olive was in fact first utilized for its olive oil, rather than something you would actually ripe off the tree. Eventually, curing methods were implemented to make the pulp edible, essentially transforming a hard, non-palatable fruit into a rich, fatty, and flavorful delicacy that is enjoyed by many olive-producing countries or as an imported product. The olive comes from the tree species Oleuropein, one of the oldest fruit-bearing trees native to the Mediterranean climate zones. It thus has a well-documented past in the Mediterranean basin and locations spanning from Portugal to the Arabian Peninsula, especially Spain, Italy, and the region known as the Levant. Olives and the olive tree likewise have strong symbolic associations in many cultures and religions common to these areas. The Mount of Olives, a famous historical sacred site and place of worship in eastern Jerusalem since biblical times, was named after the olive groves that once covered it. Archaeological evidence indicates olive tree cultivation dates back to 2500 BC. There is, however, some discrepancy whether this occurred first on the Greek island of Crete or somewhere between Turkey and Syria. The olive tree, its fruits, oil, and leaves are deeply rooted in Greek tradition and cherished as a symbol of peace and victory. Olive branches formed as wreaths, called cotinos, were once worn as trophies by ancient Olympic athletes, and the original torch for the Olympic Games burned olive oil as its fuel source. According to Greek mythology, the olive tree was a gift planted by Athena, the goddess of wisdom, as a result of a contest with Poseidon, ruler of the sea. This legendary sacred olive tree is represented at the Parthenon temple ruins of the Acropolis, a location dedicated to the goddess Athena in her patron city of Athens, Greece. About olives and the olive tree. Not only are olive trees one of the oldest food and fuel resources utilized by humans, they are also one of the longest living trees on Earth, growing as long as 200 to 2,000 years in age. The olive, Oleuropein tree species, has oblong, silver-green leaves, and the olives themselves are actually a type of drupe fruit with a single pit or large stone in the center. The olive, in its edible form, dates back to the Bronze Age, 3150 to 1200 BC. It is estimated to have been cultivated about 7,000 years ago, and therefore today there are hundreds of olive tree cultivars or olive varieties, all with their own distinct qualities, colors, sizes, shapes, and tastes. There are 6 generally recognized natural subspecies of Oleuropein, which are dispersed throughout different regions of the world. Much like the fig, Spanish missionaries brought olive trees to the Mediterranean climates of California, which is now the leading olive-producing state in the U.S. They were also further spread throughout South America, particularly Chile, Peru, and Argentina. Some subspecies also grow in hot, dry regions of Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. Today, Spain is the largest producers of olives worldwide, followed by Italy, Greece, and Turkey. 90% of Mediterranean-source olives are pressed into olive oil. What's the difference between black and green olives? Green and black olives grow on the same tree, but are essentially harvested at different times. Green olives are picked in the unripened stage, whereas black olives are picked when fully ripe, in which case they turn a darker purple to black color, depending on variety. There are also several stages in between green and black, called turning color or semi-ripe olives, in which the fruit is harvested at the beginning of ripening after the outer skin starts to turn darker reds or purples, but the inner flesh remains mostly unripe. While most olive trees produce both green, unripe, and black, ripe olives, there are a handful of cultivars that start out green or black and stay this color after they mature. They are less common, especially on a commercial scale. From a nutrient composition perspective, green olives are known to contain greater amounts of the phenolic compound known as Oleuropein, which tends to decrease considerably as they ripen on the tree. The Oleuropein content, however, is notably reduced after the curing procedure that most all fresh olives must go through. Which general olive variety you might enjoy more, green or black, is really a matter of personal taste. With so many different cultivars and curing methods, there is a very broad range of flavors and textures, especially to the olive connoisseur. We tend to go for ripe black olives over green types that have been picked before ripening. Canned black olives are not real black olives. Additionally, there is a big difference between cured ripe black olives and canned black olives. Canned versions have basically been picked when green, cured with lye, then artificially blackened via oxidation and usually the additive known as ferrous gluconate. These types are not only very bland tasting, nothing like naturally cured olives, they are not ones we recommend consuming because of their toxic ingredients. How table olives are prepared or cured. While an olive might look quite edible and tasty looking when ripe on a tree, a simple mouth-puckering bite will tell you it is not. Raw fresh olives are a type of fruit that need to be leached and cured to soften the flesh and reduce the bitter flavor caused by compounds like Oleuropein. Ripe black olives do not need to be cured as long, however, because the bitter components are less present. Curing olives is considered an artisanal craft with a great number of regional styles, techniques, and final ingredients and seasonings incorporated. Generally, however, there are several different types of commercial processing methods utilized which make olives edible and more palatable to consume. The four main types of curing methods, with some variations in between, include brine curing, dry salt, water curing, and lye curing. After cured or fermented, olives are sometimes available dry salted, but are more frequently packed and sold in olive oil or wine vinegar. Are olives considered a raw food? After doing quite a bit of research on this subject, we found that most, but not all, olive producers apparently flash sterilize their raw table olives with a quick blast of steam during the curing process. This supposedly preserves their natural enzymes and beneficial microflora, which would make sense since they are required when lacto-fermentation techniques are used. Quality suppliers we enjoy do not likewise pasteurize their final product. This procedure is not needed as cured olives are a naturally preserved food. Fermented, brine-cured olives may also therefore offer some probiotic properties. Health benefits of olives, a source of the good fats. All table olives are high in fat and are comprised of about 80 to 85% total fat content. They are, however, considered one of the good dietary fats to consume as part of a health-promoting diet. Olives and their pressed oils are a key component to Mediterranean diets, which emphasize fresh vegetables, fruits, nuts, whole grains, legumes, and seafoods, while limiting refined and processed foods. Olives contain monounsaturated oleic acid. The olive oil in olives is a monounsaturated fat, primarily composed of 75% oleic acid. Oleic acid, also called octadecanoic acid, is classified as a monounsaturated omega-9 fatty acid. It is found abundantly in fruits like avocado and durian, as well as in certain seed and nut varieties. The olive, however, is one of the top plant-based sources of this nutritive fatty acid, offering it in a greater ratio of total fat content. Dietary fats and oils composed of oleic acid like olives and olive oil are considered heart-healthy fats to include on a regular basis. In the book entitled Olives and Olive Oil in Health and Disease Prevention, it was suggested that a higher percentage of monounsaturated fats like oleic acid in the diet is associated with a reduced risk of coronary heart disease. Likewise, the American Heart Association also states that monounsaturated fats can help reduce bad cholesterol levels in your blood and lower your risk of heart disease and stroke. Fat and nutrient profile of olives. 8 sun-dried black botija olives are shown to contain 4 grams of total fat, but 3 grams of this are in the form of monounsaturated fat, while 0.5 grams is in the form of saturated and polyunsaturated fat. Black olives are also a good source of the fat-soluble antioxidant vitamin E, mostly in the form of alpha tocopherol. Keep in mind when we're talking about the health benefits of olives that there is a wide range of olive types and curing methods. Therefore, nutritional composition may also vary in accordance to these factors. The main vitamin and minerals typically claimed to be found in most olive varieties include vitamin E, vitamin A, calcium, iron, and copper, with small amounts of magnesium, zinc, and selenium. Cured olives are high in sodium. While raw olives picked fresh off the tree aren't naturally high in salt content, they are typically cured in salt or a saltwater brine to make them edible, which increases salt levels significantly. So if you're someone looking to reduce sodium levels, we definitely advise limiting your intake. Sodium content may differ, however, depending on processing techniques. The type of salt used is also something to consider. We recommend seeking out quality brands and artisanal varieties that use natural curing techniques and sea salt, as opposed to refined table salt. One way to potentially reduce the salt content in olives is to rinse or soak them in water and strain the liquid. There is, in fact, one particular type of olive we came across called the Thruba olive that is supposedly edible when sun-ripened and doesn't require much processing. Some European suppliers are now offering them as a low-salt alternative, as they contain about half the amount of salt content. Do olives contain phenols like Oleuropein? Phenolic compounds have been identified in olives, such as Oleuropein and its derivative hydroxytyrosol, which are known for their strong anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and antioxidative influence. While many online sources seem to be claiming that olives as a whole food are high in these substances, we have not actually found solid evidence of this reality. Most current scientific research is in fact on the oil and leaves, not on the olive fruit itself. Depending on the cultivar and curing techniques, some olives may contain greater amounts of phenols, like Oleuropein, and some may not. Generally, the more bitter tasting the olive, the higher this percentage. The 2 main reasons cured olives may not be good sources of Oleuropein are 1. Not high in ripe olives. As we mentioned previously, Oleuropein is a substance that is especially present in unripe green olives and starts to decrease in the early to final stages of ripening as fats and nutrients like vitamin E tend to increase. 2. Reduced after curing or debittering process. The fermentation or curing of raw fresh olives naturally leaches out the phenolic components, such as Oleuropein, that frequently causes bitterness and an unpalatable hard texture. Processing methods are also known to diminish the anthocyanins found in black olives. According to an article published in the Journal of Food Processing and Technology, it states that olive fruit maturation stage, process type, and type of fermentation highly influence the level of polyphenolic constituents and especially Oleuropein. During table olive processing, the levels of Oleuropein are markedly reduced and hence the fruit is debittered. More Oleuropein in olive oil and olive leaf extract. There are actually much higher levels of phenols in extra virgin olive oil, which is typically the juice pressed from a large percentage of fresh, raw, green, or semi-ripe olives rather than ripe black olives. We'll discuss more about olive oil itself in a future video. The olive leaf also contains very high amounts of Oleuropein. The dietary supplement known as olive leaf extract was created to provide this compound in a concentrated, bioavailable form. It is used as an anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial agent and has been studied for its potential cardioprotective qualities and benefits for candida infections. How to use. Because of their very salty taste, Olives are more frequently used as a garnish or condiment type food, or are commonly eaten as a snack or appetizer. They make a great addition to salads of all types and help to zest up more neutral tasting foods. We use the botija olive variety in our Mediterranean quinoa salad recipe. Many cultures, of course, have their own special ways to utilize them in recipes. Again, it is best not to eat too many because of their higher salt content. Most quality olives are so rich, full of flavor, and appetite satisfying, you wouldn't normally consume more than 7 to 10 olives at a time. Precautions. It is best to avoid olives and their high salt content if you have high blood pressure or are trying to reduce dietary salt intake. Consult your healthcare advisor before regular consumption if pregnant, nursing, taking prescribed medication, or if you have a serious medical condition. Thanks for watching. For additional info, as well as links to the very best sources of olives and olive products we know of, be sure and check the description box below this video. Thanks for your support by giving this video a thumbs up if you found it useful. And be sure and check out these other informational videos.